record on this computer. I bet you didn't know you were going live this morning.
It was my goal. It's my goal in life to be live.
Well, you've reached your goals through the magic of small, little, incremental improvements in your daily habits, which we're going to learn all about today with some superstars live online. Welcome, everybody. My name is Dan Aberhart. I'm president of Aberhart Ag Solutions. I'm proud to be using this platform to provide some free yet highly valuable information today with a couple of agricultural industry superstars who are not afraid to admit they're in sales. Yes, they're in sales. They sell things. Ooh. And I'll tell you, selling things moves things around planet Earth, which we all found out has great value and importance in society and life these days. So I think we should be proud to be in ag. We should be proud to be in sales. We should be proud to be part of a functioning civilization, which is about to get back to 110% productivity. How does that sound, guys? 110.
That's awesome.
That's a great intro.
Thank you, everybody that's attending. I'm so excited that you took the time to better yourselves. And without further ado, I want you to introduce the people that will be presenting the content today. Firstly, with me today, the individual who inspired that we should do this based on his sales chops and his discipline and his, vigor and vim for life, Greg Cooper. Greg, can you introduce yourself and let everybody know who you are and what you do?
Yeah, thanks, Dan. Before I do that, Dan's the hype man that everybody deserves but doesn't need.
I'm an essential service, baby.
Yeah. But yeah, good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Greg Cooper. I'm account manager at Aberhart Ag Solutions out of Saskatoon here. I'm happy to be here, and hopefully we can give you some good tactics and strategies today that you could take into your daily life. And I hope at least one thing resonates with you today. And then again with us as well is my sales coach, Jason Beres, Miami Dolphins fan himself. Jason, how's it going today?
Hey, morning, fellas. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Have the opportunity to share with you guys. My name is Jason Beres. I'm the owner of Buzzy Sales Consulting. I do coach Greg. That's why he's so phenomenal at what he does. I, as Dad says, I love sales. Sales makes the world go around, whether anybody wants to admit it or not. Every place you go to tries to sell you something, and you buy it. So let's all get together, make sales. Hey, make the world go round.
So for the participants who are here that aren't presenting today, thanks so much for attending. You can certainly message us. There's a Q&A section. Let's have an open forum. Let's have some ideas, ask some questions. But I guarantee you, something that these guys present today will change the way you do business, because there's some really good tools here. So pay attention. And without further ado, I'll let you guys take it away and start presenting your content here.
Perfect. Just going to share my screen here. Yeah, so before I start, like Dan said, feel free, go in the chat box below, and please do ask any questions. We're going to get to them at the end. I'm going to go through my presentation, and then we're going to open it up and have a roundtable discussion and make it a little more interactive. There's maybe some prizes if you ask some great questions. So today we're going to be talking about essential tactics to emerge as a sales champion. These are things that I've instilled in my life day to day, things I do quite often inside sales, business, but also just in my day-to-day life, whether it be going outside, doing whatever. So the first part of the presentation is more sales specific, and then we'll get into kind of some life strategies and things that help you structure your day for success. But before we get into that, this is something I've added in recently on some advice from Dan. I think credit isn't given enough to people that are in your corner. To go on the Rocky theme, everybody sees the champion holding the belt, but nobody really sees their coaches or who helped them get there. The first guys on my list here are my grandpa and my father. I think everybody's first influences or people they look to are somebody in their family, whether it be their dad, their mom, their brother. And that's the people that you look to kind of get those first nuances of, how to be a gentleman, how to how to present yourself in the right manner. And then I have guys like Marcus Luttrell. He's a famous Navy SEAL, and Dwayne Johnson. Everybody knows him as The Rock. I like guys like that for their grit and determination. You know, they've been through so many struggles, and now they're thriving, and they have these great platforms where they can help people out with a podcast or, you know, giving away donations to charity. I really admire people like that. And then athletes like Forrest Griffin. I come from a fighting background. I did judo my whole life. He's an athlete that started out as a humble, you know, dog, if you will, they called him, that was just trying to get his way in and get in and get in. And then he finally became the light heavyweight champion of the world through working every day, putting in the work, and not giving up. On the sales side, Grant Cardone, he's written many books. 10X Rule is probably his most famous thing. He does a huge conference every year, although he's not an egg sales guy. I take a lot of his day-to-day sales chops on how to present yourself professionally, the 10X Rule, items like that. And then Andy Frisella is somebody that you've probably heard myself or Dan talk about. Later on in the presentation, I'll talk about the Power List. That's something that Andy has designed, and as well the 75 Hard program and lifestyle that Dan and myself have been doing. And we actually now have a big group chat on WhatsApp. So if you want to join in on the next round, which I don't know when will be, but please let us know, and you can change your life. And then the three guys at the bottom of this list are more personal. These are the three gentlemen I consider my mentors. Obviously, Dan, he gave me the opportunity to work for Aberhart Egg Solutions, and he's helped me every step of the way. He's introduced me to Jason, and Jason has now become my sales coach. And every day I look at these guys, and I can get anything I need from them, any bit of advice. And then Nick Lewis as well is a relatively new mentor to me. Jason and myself met him in a random encounter. Nick Lewis, of course, is a very famous CFL player, and he's also jumped on into my life as a sales coach and kind of a life coach as well. So why I put that in there, you never know who can have an impact on your life. So be open to talking to people, introducing yourself, sell yourself first, and then you can start selling whatever you're going to sell. But with that, we're going to get into the meat of the presentation here. So the first tool that we've been implementing pretty heavily, and I think everybody else has, is Zoom meetings. If you use Microsoft Teams, FaceTime, any of those platforms, I think it's a really great tool, especially for now with the social distancing measures in place. What Zoom does that a phone call doesn't is it gives you this. It gives you the face-to-face interaction that helps you focus in a little bit more, where on a phone call, you know, you're making a coffee, you're getting in your truck, you're fiddling with something else. As well, Zoom is a great platform to be able to share documents. You can share your screen. I know many of you on here probably know, you know, the nuances of this program, but one thing that was brought up to me on a part of Zoom that I didn't think about was, for your sales calls with your current clients, try to get them on it because it keeps that relationship you have with them moving forward. More importantly, if you have prospects or suspects in your pipeline, try to get them to accept a Zoom meeting or a FaceTime, because they don't have a relationship with you, and them being able to see your face, it gives them a little bit more personal connection, and it helps move that relationship forward in a faster manner. So Zoom's a great tool. We use it daily now. And I think going forward, it's going to be used by everybody, no matter when the COVID lockdown lifts. It's a great tool to use. Moving into sales calls. This is no new phenomenon, no new tool, but structuring your sales calls is really important. I think all too often, myself included, when you're on a call, you know, I need to call these 5 guys today. But then when you call them, you get down such big rabbit holes and you get lost in the conversation, and then you hang up the phone and you realize you didn't actually not necessarily sell them something, but you didn't give them the information they needed. So I don't believe in scripting my calls because I think that sounds too robotic and a little too just not right. What I do, I take a piece of paper, a notepad, whatever, and I write down 3-4 main points on what that conversation needs to get to. So I have 4 things that are must-dos for that call. So then that way, when we do talk about, their new tractor, how the family's doing, and we get down those rabbit holes, you can now guide the conversation in your favor without having to cut them off. And then, you check off your 4 points as you go. When you hang up the phone and say goodbye, you've accomplished what you need to do. And that 20 minutes or 5 minutes has now been successful. So that's a really good tool. Try it out. Maybe it works for you. Maybe it doesn't. I think it's a really, really good tool to use making calls. And obviously, if you're driving your truck, try not to take notes. Don't distract the drive people. Bringing us to prospecting. I think during the best of times, this is tough for certain people, but it's something that needs to be done. Your current customers and your current customer pipeline can only grow your business to in our case, in the fertilizer business, the amount of acres they actually own. To grow our business further, you need to continually find new clients. And just because it's not the busy season or whenever, you should be doing this all the time. So on the screen in front of you is a brief structure of how I kind of do my prospecting to transfer them from a prospect suspect to eventually a customer. Jason Beres, that's Jason Beres' thing. I just stole it from him. So this first box, discovery, this is the first call to second calls. This is where you need to introduce yourself. Tell them about what you do, what your company does, but also find out as much information about them as you can. How many acres do they farm? Are they a John Deere guy, a Case guy? Do they like Ford or Chevy? The small nuances that don't always seem too important. And then if you're using a CRM, put all this information in there or write it down, have it so you know these things. Because having the small little personal matters that explain who they are, when you're talking to them going forward, this helps your case so much more because now you're not just only talking about business, only talking about sales. You can relate to things that they like that also potentially you like. So after you find out all this information about them, end on providing a value. What can you give as a salesperson, as an agronomist, as whatever your role is, and what can your company give to them? Give them something that they can sit on and think about that would work for them. So the next couple calls, this is where you're feeling them out, getting the pain points, ironed out. So find out what your client's core values are and what their goals are on their farm, on their business. What is their end goal? Do they want to increase efficiency? Do they want to become more sustainable? Do they want to save more money? Find out what works best for them. And then that way you'll be able to see what you can do to help provide a value to them. And then that brings us right into problem solving. So after you find out what their goals are, what their core values are, you're going to find out exactly what they need, when they need it, and how you're going to be able to provide it to them in the best manner that fits their farm, their business, whatever it is. Again, so continue to prospect. It's the probably single most important thing you can do in a day. Proactive intelligence. This is probably a very strange title to a lot of you. Some people call it over communication, but I don't like that phrase. I think proactive intelligence is much better. What this is keeping in contact with your clients, with your coworkers, with your friends, with your family. It doesn't always need to be about sales, about business, about work. Jason and myself do this probably every day. We text each other podcasts. Hey, did you listen to this podcast? Did you hear this new album from whoever, like me and Jason are metal and rap guys. So we always send each other that. And it doesn't constitute a huge conversation. Sometimes it's just a thumbs up. Yeah, good song, man. Just to keep that up. And with your clients, how this fits in that you maybe don't have as good a relationship with, send them a podcast. Coming into seating, everybody's going to be in the tractor. Send them funny things, a meme, a joke, anything that keeps it light and just keeps that contact up. By contacting, especially your clients outside of the sales world, it again adds more personability to you. It keeps building that relationship, and it really shows to your clients that you care more about them than you do their wallets, which is a very, very important thing. This brings us right to keeping it light and positive. This is crucial in day-to-day life, in sales, in everything. There's so much negativity around us right now. Being positive sometimes can take a lot out of a guy, but it's super important. So there's this quote by Clement Stone: sales are contingent upon the attitude of the salesman, not the attitude of the prospect. If you, as the salesperson, as the agronomist, come into the conversation down on the dumps, oh man, the weather's terrible, the fields are sopped in, COVID-19, the person you're talking to is going to agree with you, and they're going to be right into that negativity. And that's not good for anybody. If you come into the conversation, you're happy, you're talking about some good news. We can golf on May 15th. NFL draft starting. This is awesome. My team's going to get so many good picks. That way, if they do, the client does bring up, the weather's terrible, et cetera, you don't negate them on what they're saying. Agree with them. Look at the 4 things you have written down in front of you. Move the conversation forward. Keep it going and bring it back to the positive side. If you can stay above the negativity, it emulates onto your client, onto your family member you're talking to, onto your friends, whoever. Keep it light and positive in and out of sales. So these next items on the agenda here are more personal structure items, strategies to use that help you streamline your day, help you really think out your day, slow down a bit, and just set yourself up for success. So this first one is called the power list. So what the power list is 5 essential non-negotiable items that you do every day. They change every day. Some of them overlap, but how I do this every morning after I finish my morning, coffee and whatever else I do before I get into the office, I open up my notebook, write down the date, power list right at the top. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What these 5 things are, they're not a to-do list. I think everybody has a to-do list that's about 50 things too long. What the power list is a focused thinking of, today, if I do these 5 things will move my business forward. They're going to help me make this next sale. What are the 5 most important things you're going to do today? That's not to say you're only going to do 5 things, but these are the non-negotiables. These are the must-dos, not the should-dos. And we can get into more of this. I'm sure people will have some questions on this. I'm seeing the chat box light up. But yeah, so that's what the power list is. 5 non-negotiables a day. And another thing we do to keep the accountability on this in our company, Dan, Graham, and myself, we have a WhatsApp group chat, and every morning we snap a picture. Dan does it on Trello. Graham does it on Notes on his iPhone. We just send in our list to each other. It's not to be nosy. It's just to see everybody's thinking and everybody's moving forward in the right way. So with the power list, it is part of my routine. Routine, especially with people working from home, is very, very important. There's people that have big routines, small routines. Everybody has a different kind of fit. If you think adventure is dangerous, try routine, it's lethal. Right now, when your office is 3 steps away from your bedroom and 2 steps away from your kitchen, work and home can get so meshed together. And if you're not focused on relaxing or focused on work. I think a lot of times we can get lost in life. So you need to have that transition from home to work. You no longer have that ability for everybody to drive to work. Let's say typically you make your coffee, you get your kids ready to work for school, you drop them off at school, now you're at work. And that's your transition period. Now your transition period is completely different. One thing to start a routine you can do is start going to bed at the same time and waking up at the same time. It's simple, but it's effective. What I do every morning, I have a little bit of more in-depth routine. I wake up, I make my bed, I do some breathing exercises, Wim Hof. I know Dan is also a Wim Hof fan. And I do some meditation. I get in the shower, and then I make a coffee, and I either listen to a podcast, do some light reading. And all while I'm doing this, I don't look at my email. I don't text work people. I do not look at this device. This is work. If the first thing you do in the morning is wake up and work, you're not focused on it. It's not effective, and you're not putting everything you can into it. So after I do my morning routine, have my coffee, that's when I come into my office, I grab my Powerless notebook, and now work starts. Have that transition, have that focus. This is a tool that I use every day, even on the weekends. So, and that's not to say you need to do a huge routine right away. Dip your toe in first, try going to bed at the same time. And then, get into your knee in the water and try some meditation or some breathing. And then you'll understand what routine fits best for you and what clicks. It could take 10 different routines, but eventually you figure out what works best for you. So slowing down is also really important here. In a minute, I'm going to show you this video from the Judo World Champions last year. This the competitor in the blue is from Japan, and the competitor in the white is from Cuba. So what you're going to see in this video is the Japanese competitor is going to slow down just enough to get a reaction from the Cuban fighter. And then the Japanese competitor is going to attack with great efficiency, and he's going to win the fight. It's going to be pretty quick, but I'll walk you through it after. So right here, the Cuban reacted. You probably missed it, but the Japanese fighter stepped back to have the Cuban follow him. And right here, he wins the fight with what we call an ippon, which is a effective throw right to the back, which wins the fight. So what does this video have to do with slowing down? Well, it was quick, but it also slowed down. And that's how life happens. Life doesn't slow down for anybody. Seeding doesn't slow down for anybody. Our industry seems to move this quick with every innovation, with everything happening with anything. Slowing down just enough to make things clear is really important. This can be with phone calls, not feeling that void of quiet or talking too much or cutting people off. Or if you're working on a project for work, instead of rushing it and finishing that day, text your boss, email your boss, say, hey, I have to feather some things out. I need an extra day. I'll have it to you at noon tomorrow. That way you actually focus on the project, on the call, and you do it properly the first time. So then it doesn't need to be redone or, there's an issue with grammar or anything like that. Take a deep breath, relax, things will work out. Directly tied to slowing down is productivity. This quote here, and this old man is Jigoro Kano. He's the founder of judo, and maximum efficiency with minimum effort is the foundational phrase of judo. On every dojo across the world, it's banistered in Japanese rice paper, in Japanese scripture. And what that truly means, it's not about doing things the easy way. It's about getting the most out of what you can do without completely draining yourself of everything you have. It's about taking your time, but also putting in a lot of focus, but not a whole lot of effort. And where this fits in is when you're working on a project or anything, if you take 3 hours, let's say, to do this presentation, and it's going to be so great, but while you're doing that, for the 3 hours, you're Instagramming while you're doing it, you're on the phone while you're trying to do it, there's zero focus there. That is not efficient, and that takes a lot of effort. What you could do instead is set a timer on your phone, 25 minutes, head down, eyes up, focus. Only thing you're doing is that presentation. You know, you might have to take a certain specific phone call. That's fine. But get rid of the distractions, put all the focus into that 25 minutes. And then when that timer's up, put a timer on for 5 minutes. Step away from the computer, go have a quick 5-minute break. Those 25-minute stints are super efficient, but there's not a whole force of effort that's going to completely drain you and go, wow, that project took forever. That's not effective for anybody. So 25 minutes, 5 minutes on, 25 minutes on, 5 minutes off. That's how I usually do my day. On a time scale, you can Google, there's so many different, work versus break schedules out there. But again, I can get into this a little bit more when we get into the round table, but breaks are really great if you use them properly. So the last thing here is ask for help. This can be really difficult for anybody. You know, I think asking for help sometimes has a negative connotation that, oh, if I ask this guy for help, he's too busy, or I'm just going to pester him with my problems. He doesn't deserve that. The only way you can ask for help is if you ask for it. Nobody will give it to you if they don't know you need it. The funny thing about asking for help, though, is sometimes when somebody asks you for help, you actually get help as well. Because by helping them, it can sometimes highlight things that you're dealing with, or just release, helping people makes you feel good. It's that philanthropy feeling, on a note. So help is really, really important. And ask myself, ask Aberhart, if your company, is trying to get Zoom going, or you're trying to figure out how to make better calls, feel free to ask us. If there's personal issues going on that, you feel comfortable talking to us about, ask us, or we can, hopefully find somebody that will be able to ask you or help you. So don't be afraid to ask for help ever in life, in business, in anything. So with that, it wraps up my sales training slide portion. I know we have a bunch of questions in the chat here, but before I do that, I did want to jump to Jason. Is there anything that you're doing daily that helps you move along your day that is crucial for you to have focus in your day? You're muted. Yeah.
The big thing for me, Greg, was and my big takeaway is work from the inside out, not the outside in, because you cannot control what happens outside your window, but you can control what happens inside your window. So if you take control of what you do on a daily basis from yourself, starting first, versus what's happening, we all know what's happening outside our window today. You have no control over that. So take control of what happens inside your own self. The outside will take care of itself.
Awesome. Dan, is there anything you wanted to add? Or
I do want to add something. I just got to say I'm incredibly proud of what you just laid down there. It's incredible, and it's pretty touching, actually. And folks, this is not something that happens overnight. This is a progression. This is a net result of consistent actions culminating over time. And so we in life are all on a trajectory, okay? You're on a track, whether you want to be or not. And the reality is that you're on a track, and if you suddenly realize you're in the wrong track, you want to be over here, It's hard as hell to do a 180, right? But if you're constantly making minor degree adjustments incrementally on a regular basis, like fractionally, like daily, like Greg is 21 years old, folks. 21 years old. And you just heard that level of wisdom from him. I wish like hell that I was half as dedicated and so many other things at 21. Trust me, I'm still working on it as 44. But if you start today, you're doing things like the power list, the morning routines, you're making calls with structure, you know, you're thinking positively. If this guy feeds himself a healthy diet, not only in terms of nutrition from our agricultural sector that's always producing healthy, safe food, but mentally, this guy's feeding himself and digging in deep with guys like Jason, who are at a point in their lives where the most important thing they can do is not collect dollar bills. It's not about collecting dollar bills. It's about having a bigger purpose. And Jason, you and I were in hardcore sales at the kitchen table for a long time. I mean, I've been selling all my life at different levels, 2 decades now, but I mean, I was a hardcore iron salesman for 13 years. You know, and that's a grind. That's a hard thing to do. And that's why you need to build this infrastructure. But at some point you realize money's just the scoreboard and you want to give back people like Rob Sake. I mean, how many people has Rob Sake lifted up and elevated? I mean, he's on the board for the farm and he's mentored both me and my brother, and inspired whole tribes of agronomists and people in agriculture, and did TED Talks. Like, so this is what excites me about where Greg is at 21, to be at this level of discipline and sharing it with others. Well, I got a comment here that I actually appear older than my age, but anyways.
I see that.
I'm 44. But yeah,
to expand on what you have to say a little bit there, Dan, about the track changing thing, and to steal a line from Jim Fortin here, he says that if you don't like what you're doing today, change your story. Your story is only you. It's all up to you. And part of the story, how he explains is that people who say, I can't lose weight, I can't lose weight, I can't lose weight. So you can't lose weight or you don't want to lose weight. Which one is it? Mm-hmm. So if you change your story to say, I can lose weight instead of I can't lose weight, guess what? You can lose weight. Guess what? You can make that call today. Guess what? You can make that sale today. It's all in the way that your story is projected from yourself. And when I heard that, and that was like an aha moment for me when I listened to that podcast. And he said that, I'm like, that totally makes sense, because every day you tell yourself the story, I can't get out of bed, I'm too tired. Yeah, you can. As a matter of fact, you can get out of bed. Whether you think you can't or not, you can, believe it or not, you know? And it's one of those things that as soon as you tell yourself the story that you want to go down, that track that you want to take, like you said, Dan, that's the track you're going to pick. And pick the track that is going to be your most successful path. And that's the way it works.
100%. And further to that, you can use the power of stories to reframe anything that's happening in your life. Because something might happen that makes you realize the last 5 years or 10 years of your life reframed in a different way. Actually, that was all good. Yeah, it was hard. It was a challenge, but something might happen that reframes it to like, okay, that was all worth it. And that was all good. I just did the best I could. And now I'm here. And so the reality is, if you can think in that context, even if you're having a bad day, you can switch, you can reframe that context where, okay, this shitty thing happened, but do I really know if that was all bad? Because a better thing will likely take the place of that. Nature abhors a vacuum. So when I have a really crazy negative thing happen in my day that just gut punches me, I actually try and take a step back and reframe that as quickly as possible. Because I've now learned through experience of doing the really, really hard stuff that all of that reframed is actually a good news story. So the worst challenges, like including COVID's going to create the opportunities of a lifetime for some people. And some people are just going to spiral downwards into their the muck and mire of their negativity and addictions, and they're going to have everybody has their worldview confirmed. So here again, we have a young man at 21 who has a worldview of domination, and he's going to achieve it because he has that mindset. So, you know, cultivating a different mindset is key. Reframing the story is key, and I would love to hear from any of our participants here today who had any questions for the panelists. Obviously, you can see that Jason's already got significant sales chops, and Jason's a professional sales trainer. He's been around the horn a few times, and me, well.
Yeah.
I think, there's a lot of comments on the power list, Greg. I think maybe if you want to expand on that a little bit, I think that's pretty powerful for what we all do on a daily basis. It really doesn't matter what you're doing. So if you have anything to expand on that, and I think for myself, I'm going to talk to you about this off camera, later on today about it. I need your coaching on it as well.
Perfect. Yeah, no, for sure. And actually, I just wanted to highlight something that I forgot to add in the ask for help. Jason, he's my mentor, he's my coach. Dan is as well. They still ask me for help. It doesn't matter what position you're in. Just because you're at the tippy top doesn't mean you don't need help. Just wanted to highlight that quick. But yeah, on the power list, I've seen a bunch.
Here's a question for you, Greg. Greg, if you don't mind sharing, what is one of your power lists from last week?
Your power list today.
Yeah. So I'll so this is my book I have here. Every day I write in it, and then I cross off the list as I go. So I'll go from today. So today's power list, number 1 is sales webinar. 2, call Jill from A&L Labs. 3, agenda for meeting next week. 4, follow up with one of my dealers. And 5, finish up my call list. So the power list items, like you hear, I have sales webinar. That's something obviously I'm going to do no matter what today. It's not so much about it being an extraordinary task or an unbelievable task. I put sales webinar on there for the simple fact that at 7:30, I wrote that down, and it helps get your mind working and clicking. Not all your tasks need to be so, amazing and spectacle filled. It's more about what you need to really think about to accomplish that day. So, sorry, I was reading a question while I was doing that. Yeah, so this is every morning I write my list of the current day. And then also in our group chat, what I do, I have the day yesterday. So yesterday was a great day. I got 100% done. My writing, I would look like a doctor. And then from that, I send a picture of the day before and the current day into our group chat, and Dan and Graham do that as well. And it's just, again, not because we're really nosy on what we're doing. It's just curious on, we're all thinking about it.
So what I love about the power list for our organization, it creates a lot of coachable moments. And so I have a little bit of an idea what the guys are thinking about, and your organization, at least your team is up and they're thinking about what they're going to do of value every day. But I want to point out something I don't think that we've touched on it regarding the power list yet, is that, folks, it's not just a way to organize your day. The reality is that we as entrepreneurs, or we as salespeople, we're always pushing on a string, right? And the horizon keeps moving away. You have goals and you want to get somewhere, but it's very difficult to actually reach that point on the horizon unless you create a signpost. And each of those tasks is a daily signpost where you can count your wins, because who here, if you put up your hand in this virtual world, you reach 4 o'clock and you wonder what just happened. Well, that's a function of not setting clear priorities at the beginning of the day. And that's a terrible feeling. You want to be able to get to the end of each day, month, quarter, year, and count your wins. Count your wins daily, and it also creates this accountability where if you're only getting 3 of your tasks done, you're not really achieving what your accountability goals are. So that's a good highlight. But we want to delve into some of the questions that we had here. The first question from Eric is, and I'm sorry, Eric, if we miss or lose the intention of this, but you said this has to be conversationally asked. If you ask this point blank, he sells to neighbors who are guarded. So I take it sometimes if you're an agricultural salesman, but you're also a farming peer, it can be a challenge. And we see this all the time with our dealers. I mean, you don't want to press on them. You don't want to make them feel uncomfortable. You don't want to come across too salesy. But I usually coach, you're in very little danger of coming across too salesy because you haven't called anybody. But why don't you guys, I'll let you guys block and tackle that.
I think the way I'm interpreting this, and Eric, please chat in the box if I'm wrong. I think you're touching on when I was asking them, what they farm, how many acres they farm. Those were just examples, right? It's more so about asking more questions than you telling them. Because when you're just telling and telling and telling, that's when you get the greasy car salesman mannerisms. So by asking more questions, it automatically opens the person up, because I think naturally everybody's favorite topic is themselves. So I think if you're asking more questions, it does make that, that conversation, and it opens it up a bit more. Jason, any thoughts there?
If you use the 15% rule, where you only talk 15% of the time and listen to 85% of the time, you'll dominate the conversation, literally, because he'll tell you, people love, like you said it, Greg, people love to talk about themselves, and people love to talk about what they've done, what they've accomplished. So let him talk about his John Deere tractor. Let him talk about the new truck he bought. Let him talk about the crop that went 70 bushels, whatever that case may be. There's no way that any of those guys would ever think that you were trying to be nosy by asking them a question about themselves. That's not the way they work. That's the story you tell yourself.
And I'll share something that I shared with the Western Agronomy professionals at their professional development conference. Paul was there. We struggle with, what's the proper way to approach social media, or what's the proper way to approach our customers. You have to frame the story about going to your customers with this, invincible shield, this invincible shit shield of like, I'm actually providing value. I'm not here to take anything from anybody, but I believe in the services, the products that I'm providing. So when I'm reaching out on social media, or if I'm prospecting, or if I'm working with a client, it's coming from a place of, I believe I have tremendous value, and it's my duty to bring you that value. And as long as you come from that place, you're not there to take anything from them. You truly believe what you have to offer will be of service to them. Then that gives you the permission and the confidence, because, hey, if you didn't believe in what you're doing, you wouldn't do it in the first place. So if you believe in what you're doing, don't be afraid to take it to your clientele or to the world. Ryan Bredner, thanks for the question. I feel guilty sometimes when I ask my current clients for leads. Is that normal? Can you guys expand on that?
Jason,
I answered it. Yeah, I answered it there. Ryan, never feel guilty. Guilt, again, is just that story that you tell yourself. The people that you go and ask those referrals or leads for, I guarantee that they feel happy that you asked something of them that they can, further your career, or further your, what you want to accomplish in your career or life. I guarantee it. Those people are more than proud and happy to help you out.
Can you talk about the best way to deal with selling to your relatives who could not come across as the expert, but your services could help their farm?
Jason, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a quick one for that one, Paul. For relatives, I like to use referrals. So I'll say Greg's my brother, and I'll say, hey, Greg, you know what, Dan actually uses my product, and he really likes it. If you don't, take my word on it, why don't you call Dan? We all know Dan, and let's call Dan, and he'll tell you about it. So if you think that I'm just coming across as that expert, this is from somebody else who is a third party input on it. So if you're worried about selling to your relatives, and I get where you're coming from, Paul, because I was no different, but sometimes you just overwhelm them with the truth or the facts that what you're telling them is not just some bullshit line, that this is an actual truth to it. And here's the guy that if you don't believe it from me, listen to Dan or listen to somebody else.
Mm-hmm. Good point. That's a neat way around it. Okay, I want to get to Rob Sig's question here about the impact filter. So I'll share a little bit about this tool. The impact filter is a tool that expresses your intentionality. So it's something that if you sit down, you take 20 minutes to fill out ahead of a project, ahead of a meeting, ahead of some sort of milestone in your business. you're going to be a lot more effective by getting clarity. This goes back to Greg's comments about slowing down. The power karate next level matrix move here before you do anything, and this is the big thing for me because I'm squirrel, scatterbrain, ADD, OCD, whatever. Slow it down, bring it down, get clear on your intentions before you go and do something, and you're so much more effective. Plus, I always go to a meeting with the assumption that everybody knows exactly what I'm talking about, and we should all be on the page because I'm thinking about this for days, weeks, months, right? So I formulated a whole construct in my head, but when I go to take it to my team, nobody has any idea what I'm talking about because they don't know. 70% of the time, your team, your folks, your people will not know what's in your head. So by doing an impact filter, we actually know how to get everybody on the same page and set our intention. So this is a tool, one of the main tools from Strategic Coach. Pay big money to go to Toronto to learn this kind of stuff and use this stuff and physically write it down on pencil. But you write down the name of the project, the focus, you write down the purpose of what you're doing. What do you want to accomplish? Why are we even doing this? Dan Sullivan doesn't take a meeting without both parties doing an impact filter, right? Why would we have a meeting if we don't know what we're meeting about, what we want to accomplish? So you got to identify the purpose. What do you want to accomplish? What's your motivation? You talk about the importance. What difference will this make if you are successful? What impact will this have? What does a completed project look like? Why are we having this meeting and what do we want it to look like at the end? And then your success criteria, well, you can drill down into the very specifics of what it is that you want to have as success metrics. And I was just working on a proposal for a client with the dealer, and one of the things that we put in there that I thought was really cool was at some point we're asking, if we're here sitting together a year from now and looking back on this project where I sold you this product and service, what has to be true for this to be a success? And it was a blank for the customer to tell you, what do you expect for it to be a success? So you know how to meet their expectations and you can look like a massive winner in that arena. And then of course it's helpful to think, well, what's the best result if I do this well and I succeed at this versus what's going to happen if I don't focus on this and get down to business and deliver my customer expectations? I'll be living in a van down by the river. That's the worst case scenario. So great tool. Use it all the time in the business. Just one of the many tools that's been bestowed upon us by Strategic Coach.
The other one from Strategic Coach as well, Dan, is that positive focus list.
Oh,
it works great.
Yeah.
I've just started it recently. It works great.
Yeah, and I think so. So what Jason's referring to there is in the weekly planner, there's a section called, positive focus, and we try and start out every meeting, try and start out every project, every day with the positive focus. It goes back again to counting your wins. So with the positive focus, at least you know what you've accomplished. And it's crazy, like every quarter when we go to Strategic Coach, Rob can attest to this, and I can't imagine how many things Rob has on his positive focus every year. But you go there every quarter and you start writing down all the good shit that happened in the quarter, and you're like, whoa, this is absolutely amazing what we achieved and all the stuff that we did, and it felt like we're pushing on a string. But in reality, we achieved a lot. Rob, did you have anything more to add to that? I've added you as a speaker. I put you on the spot, but I know you respond well to that kind of thing.
Well, I think that, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead.
All right. Well, I think that the real point that this stuff makes is about slowing down. And, I've been going to Strategic Coach for this is my 27th or maybe 28th year. And every 90 days I fly to Toronto and I review my life. We just did it virtually here in April. But the point of it is that, well, virtually wasn't as good because I was distracted by all the other stuff. But when I go to Toronto, I basically spend a day flying there, a day at Coach, and then come back. And so once a quarter, I spend at least 2 days where I slow down and I think about my life. And Coach forces you to do that. And you say, well, can't you do that at home? Well, you can, but you're not disciplined enough to do so. So unless you carve out time to slow down, and that's what a positive focus. I start every meeting basically with a positive focus, and an intentionality or an impact filter on projects are very important. So it's about slowing down. Well done, guys. I'll shut up.
Thanks so much, Rob. I really appreciate that.
Troy, I just like to expand on Troy's answer there as well. Troy, the one thing that is very key to all that, and Greg touched on the CRM, using a CRM where you can actually keep those notes that you got from talking to that client or that customer that opened up to you. Now you can actually come back to on that day when he says, yeah, you know what, on April 27th, that's my daughter Mary's birthday. If you have that in your notes and you come back a year from today and on April 27th, you stop by his place with a gift card to Toys R Us or something like that for his kid for $10 or $20 or $25, now you look like a professional. You paid attention to exactly what he had to say and you made note of it and you put it back into your mind. And now on April 27th, 2021, you stop by there and you probably made that kid's day. And B, you made his day for sure. Mm-hmm. And if you want to go next step, you probably made his wife's day because they're all in it together. Let's face it, everybody is a team. And, then you look like that guy. You're that guy that pays attention.
Yeah.
And before we get into the Twitter questions, I just wanted to use that brilliant segue to do a little pitch. This wasn't pre-planned. We're not selling anything today really, other than giving each other support here in sales. But you can go to Jason's website here at buzzysales.com. And if you want to put in your customer's birthday or notes about anything, you can actually use his CRM, which we use daily. And it's an awesome tool. It's very simple to get started with. It's very easy to get metrics on your customers and your interactions and your new leads, all that good stuff, and track each other. And also as a team, we use it to communicate. We go to log and see who's been talking to who about what. Mm-hmm. So that's pretty cool stuff, and it's designed to be super simple. It's just super easy. It's not really as complicated as some of the other CRMs out there. So that's a pretty extraordinary tool that we didn't even touch on, that's for sure. But we want to wrap this up pretty quick, I think. Yeah. Although it is a great discussion, and if people have more questions, we're not going to cut it off because we want to help everybody here on the call. But you had some questions from Twitter you wanted to address, Greg.
Yeah. Quickly before that, though, I saw Eric asking how much time to spend on planning your day. I take about 20 minutes, and it varies. It's all variant on what your day looks like and how much time you actually need. 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 5 minutes. Typically for me, it's about 20 minutes. But I did have a Twitter question from a good friend of mine, Tyne Patterson. I think this would be a good one for Jason. What do you all recommend for someone starting out finding a job in the ag industry? What about in times like this?
That one's fairly easy for me, to be honest with you. It's all about who you know, not what you know. Find that referral that will get you to the job that you are interested in. Obviously, you're not just going to take a shit shoveler job if you have a MBA, but find that job that interests you in the part of the industry that interests you. And get that referral, get that guy who might put you in touch with the right guy, or who I call the MAD, right? The money, authority, desire. So the MAD guy is the guy that also does the hiring for the most part. So if you can get in touch with that guy, get past the gatekeeper and get that initial contact with the guy who's hiring, or maybe just even you put the bug in his ear that you're looking for something, he may accommodate you. That would be my tip for him.
Yeah, and I'll add to that too. I mean, funny enough, when I started working at Aberhart, I did exactly that. I called Dan Aberhart directly, and I said, "Hey, can I come work for you?" wasn't quite that forward, but
I'm like, calling me.
Yeah, one thing I will give advice. One thing I will give advice is don't be afraid to call. I think too often people are like, "Well, I sent so many resumes out and nobody's gotten back to me." So call them, email them, follow up with a follow-up. Don't be afraid to get out there.
Troy had a great comment on this too. He said, take this time period to understand your product service deeper. And I just want to share too, like when I went to university when I was your age, Greg, I was really focused on marks and learning because I thought that was a path to success. Now my advice 20 years later to everybody in university is network, 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 and go out and become everybody's best friend and get on the school board and whatever else, because all of those people will be the really successful people in 20 years that when you have a new venture or need an opportunity, you call them up and make it happen. And I didn't do enough of that. And now, networking gives us 90% of our value in the company. There's no bricks and mortar here. It's the value of our network. It's who you know. So go ahead. You had another question from Twitter there, Greg?
No, it was answered. It was answered, through all the panel questions.
We had a comment there. Appreciate the invite. Western Ag took a couple of gold nuggets from this gold mine. Love Western agronomy. Love the technology.
Thanks for. I seen Paul and Ryan on today. Thanks for joining in, guys.
We've talked about working with them on some different levels, and if anybody wants any more coaching of any kind, myself and Jason and Greg are highly available. Is there any more questions we want to cover?
Yep. There is one more, and it's actually a really good one.
Sweet.
Kelly Gray, what tactics do you use with new customers to help avoid selling based on price and more the value of you/your company can provide? For me, I think I won't assume what Jason does, but for me, I avoid price until it's absolutely necessary to talk about. And that goes to what I was saying earlier. Ask them questions, see what matters to them. Some guys really care about agronomy. Some guys care about equipment. Whatever really matters to them, make it so you could sell on that. So if their biggest concern is, how's it going to work with all my equipment? Sell them on that point. Tailor the sell to who you're selling to. Each different buyer has a different buying style. Jason has a really good platform and kind of model for this, but know who you're selling to, understand it, and then that way you should be able to avoid the price chat until you're cutting a check.
Hit the nail on the head. Show value in yourself. Price. Dan and I used to sell John Deere equipment. John Deere has never and will never be the cheapest equipment on the market. I guarantee that. So whenever we would go in there to sell John Deere equipment and the guy would buy John Deere equipment, no matter what color he bought in the past, we used to send out these polls and a survey. And the number one thing that always came up was service. Number two was parts, almost every time. The price was number 7 or 8. Every survey, believe it or not, everybody says that John Deere is so expensive, blah, blah. It has zero to do about the price. It is everything about the service and how the service that you can provide value to. Mm-hmm. It has really nothing to do with the price.
And people feel good paying that money because of the perceived value, right or wrong. I mean, I sold stuff for $500,000 when we went to the field and all the oil puked out on the ground. They still love it.
And they still loved it. You're right.
It's true. I mean, it was a really interesting phenomenon being an iron salesman, back in the day. Really, now, I mean, the complex has changed, but
Troy has a really good question too.
Yeah. So how do you know when to pull the plug on a prospect?
I touch on this quite a bit, and to eliminate tire kickers early in the process is key to your success. I'll tell you that right now. So a prospect, and I tell Greg this all the time, a suspect turns into a prospect, which turns into a customer after he buys twice. A customer isn't a customer until he buys twice, not once, but twice. So a suspect is a suspect until he becomes a prospect. So don't feel bad about ever, disqualifying or quote unquote firing a customer or a prospect or a suspect. It's one of those things that if somebody's going to waste your time in a day, how much is your time valuable? You put your value to your time. If that time is X and you feel like spending all that time with a guy who's just, you feel is just wasting your time, that's up to you. If you feel that you're wasting your time and you're asking that question to yourself, well, how much time do I spend with this guy? Move on. If you have to ask yourself that question, it's time to move on. If it's not going anywhere, if the conversation isn't moving forward at that time to move on.
I'd also add to that with the 80-20 rule. And the 80-20 rule is a magical thing that continually occurs in nature that's actually fractional. So it's not only that 20%, your top 20% will be 80% of your business, but your top 20% of that 20% is also 80% of that. So it's fractional. But the reality is that if you take your customer list, say if you have 20 customers and you look at the top 5, they're going to be 80% of your business. So you have to really figure out, are you going to grow your business by doubling down with that 20% that are 80% of your business and just do more with them? Typically, they're the people that are the most easy to deal with. They typically see the value in what you're doing, and they have room to grow that business versus everybody on the tail end of that power curve with the 80-20 rule. Read the 80-20 rule in marketing and sales, and it really makes you think about where you're investing your resources. So I find, especially in equipment sales, but also is pertinent to everything we do today, it'll take 2 to 10 times the amount of work to work with those people on the tail end of the power curve versus investing more on the top 5 or 10 that are your business, and they enjoy you and they help you, versus the people that don't want to pay you any money, that think your service is worth, isn't worth what you're asking for it. And, they'll be, that sale never gets better. So when you sell, you sell to those people at the bottom of the power curve, that can really suck up a lot of resources that you could be investing in the people that really believe in your services. Are we to the end of our questions now, folks?
Dan, dare I say that we're almost moving into a 90-10 rule instead of 80-20.
Yeah.
We're almost into the 90-10 rule, where because of the size of the farms, because of the amount that guys are putting into their business nowadays, and the less and less suppliers, if you want to call it that, we're getting to the 90-10 rule.
Well, an interesting thing occurred too in my brother's business too, where they were doubling down on those people that were using all their services and sort of really letting go some of the customers that were just dabbling, that only took a small portion of their services, that weren't highly invested. So having less higher invested clientele that are working with you on a more of a partnership level is actually a more pleasurable way of spending your time on planet Earth, if I might say.
Yeah.
Connections are the way of the world.
The way of the world. I just thought I would sing. It just seemed like an appropriate moment to start singing. How do you guys feel about my singing so far?
Take it away, Mick.
Fly me to the moon. Okay, this is it. When Sinatra starts singing, it's over. We appreciate everybody's time on the webinar. Any final comments here? This was good. Thanks, guys. I appreciate that from Troy Voth. Jason, I'm going to give you a chance to say what you want to wrap this up, and then we're going to go back to Greg, who's the real star of this show, and then we'll be out.
I just want to thank you, Dan, Aberhart Egg Solutions. I want to thank Greg for the invitation. If there's anything that I can help anybody, don't feel shy to reach out to me. I'll talk to anybody. So thanks for having me, fellas. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Greg?
Yeah, of course, Jason. And first off, thanks, Dan, thanks, Jason, and thank you everybody for joining us today. I really hope, if you take one little nugget away, like Ryan was saying there, that's all that makes me happy. And if you don't take anything, you joined us for a good conversation at least. Just one thing, a little housekeeping for the Twitter coveralls and for the Tim's cards in this, I'll be putting it all in a hat here after the meeting, and I'll get in touch with everybody. But yeah, thanks Jason, thanks Dan for all the help, and hope everybody else has a good day. Spring's upon us, and let's have a great season, guys.
Yeah, stay safe out there. Good luck with seeding. We're in the best business in the world. Obviously, it's just been confirmed, and I wish everybody well. And if you ever need any help or have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. I mean, the best thing that we can do in our day is help others reach success. So check out Jason at Buzzy's. What's your address? Website address again? BuzzySales.com or something?
BuzzySales.com.
BuzzySales.com. And of course, you can check Greg and I out at Aberhart Egg Solutions and find us there. So best of luck, everybody. Thanks so much for attending. It means the world that we're in this all together. So take care and good luck, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, guys.
Bye for now.